Welcome, deep divers, to another exploration into the frontiers where human ingenuity meets some really profound challenges. Today, we're embarking on a journey into a topic that touches on, well, one of our most fundamental human desires, the ability to move freely, to interact with the world. Just pause for a moment and consider the sheer complexity, the sort of unconscious grace of reaching for a glass of water or waving to a friend or, I don't know, simply scratching an itch. These are movements most of us just take for granted day in, day out. But for millions globally, these seemingly simple actions represent an immense, often heartbreaking challenge.
Indeed. For individuals grappling with conditions like stroke or various forms of paralysis, severe spinal cord injuries, their daily reality is dramatically altered. These aren't just minor inconveniences. They involve, profound damage to the central nervous system. It disrupts those vital neural connections, leading to a loss of voluntary motor control. And the impact isn't solely physical. It's deeply emotional, psychological, too. It strips away independence, significantly diminishing their quality of life. And despite incredible progress in medical understanding and rehab, truly effective, reliable treatments that restore full voluntary movement, well, they're still heartbreakingly limited.
Absolutely. The inability to control one's own voluntary movements casts such a long shadow, doesn't it? Affecting every aspect of life, from personal care to social interaction. But what if? What if cutting-edge technology could bridge that chasm? What if we could, give that control back, not just partially, but with precision, with fluidity? This is where things get truly fascinating. Our brains are constantly alive with electrical activity, generating these intricate patterns, even when we're just thinking. And here's a crucial insight, right? That BCI technology leverages, even thinking about moving what they call motor imagery, activates many of the same neural circuits as if you were actually physically moving. It's like your brain is practicing this complex dance in its internal theater, even if your body can't quite join in yet.
That's precisely the key. Yeah. This activation of motor circuits by mere thought, that's the foundation for brain-computer interfaces, BCIs. These remarkable technologies are designed to read those intricate thought-driven brain signals and then translate them into purposeful action. They offer a real beacon of hope for restoring motor control. They aim to create a direct communication pathway, essentially allowing your thoughts to bypass damaged neural pathways and interact directly with external devices, maybe a robotic arm or a computer interface.
And that brings us right to the core of today's mission. Because, while classifying discrete intended movements, like move left versus move right, or open hand versus close hand, that's seen some impressive progress. The task of decoding continuous hand kinematics is far, far more difficult. We're talking about the smooth, complex, nuanced, endlessly variable motion of your hand, every subtle curve, every precise speed adjustment. Imagine the difference between simply telling a robot turn left versus, delicately guiding its hand through the intricate process of picking up a single grain of rice or signing your name. That level of real-time, on-edge precision, especially for implanted devices, that's been, well, an elusive goal. Very limited solutions, until now perhaps.
That's right. Today, we're going to unpack a significant leap forward in BCI technology that's directly tackling this formidable challenge. We're talking about Raman, a groundbreaking, energy-efficient TinyML accelerator. It's specifically designed to decode continuous hand kinematics. And when we say TinyML, we're not just talking small files. It's a whole field dedicated to making machine learning models run on incredibly resource-constrained hardware. Think microcontrollers, smart sensors, and in this case, a specialized chip designed for implantation. It's about bringing AI intelligence right to the edge, where power and memory are measured in, like, milliwatts and kilobytes, not gigawatts and gigabytes.
You heard that right, machine learning, inside the brain, decoding your most fluid movement intentions. By the end of this deep dive, you'll understand how cutting-edge machine learning and incredibly clever hardware co-design can make the seemingly impossible possible. And more importantly, you'll gain insight into what this means for the future of assistive technology, for neurological research, and perhaps even how we might augment human capabilities in the years to come. So let's begin. Let's explore this intricate dance of movement and the grand vision of the BCI dream. When we talk about movement disorders, stroke, paralysis, spinal cord injuries, we're confronting conditions that just profoundly alter a person's life. Can you elaborate a bit on the core pathophysiology? What's actually happening biologically to disrupt movement?
Certainly. These conditions primarily involve damage to the central nervous system. In stroke, it's often, a disruption of blood flow to parts of the brain controlling movement, leading to cell death. Spinal cord injuries, on the other hand, physically sever or damage the neural pathways carrying signals between the brain and the body. Paralysis can stem from various neurological diseases that attack nerve cells or the connections between them. In all these cases, the fundamental issue is a disruption of those vital neural connections. It impairs or completely blocks the brain's ability to send precise commands to the muscles. The result is, well, a loss of voluntary motor control, making even simple tasks monumental challenges.
And the impact on daily life. We often focus on the physical limitations, but it goes much deeper than that, doesn't it?
It truly does, yeah. Imagine the sheer frustration of wanting to perform a simple task, like reaching for a glass of water, or pushing a button, or maybe communicating a complex thought through gesture, but your body just won't cooperate. These conditions, they strip away independence. People lose the ability to feed themselves, dress themselves, even communicate effectively without assistance. The physical toll is immense, often leading to secondary complications. But the emotional and psychological burden is equally heavy, you know. Grappling with the loss of control over one's own body can lead to isolation, depression, a profound sense of helplessness. This is the deep human problem that BCI technology fundamentally seeks to address, restoring agency, improving quality of life.
It's a powerful motivation, which leads us perfectly into brain-computer interfaces as this new frontier. At its core, BCI is a direct communication pathway between the brain and an external device. It's like creating a direct bridge, isn't it, between your thoughts and the outside world, bypassing those compromised pathways.
And for the kind of high-fidelity control needed for intricate natural movements, invasive BCI systems are currently leading the charge. These systems involve surgically implanting electrodes directly into or onto the brain. This allows them to record intracortical and cortical brain activities with superior spatiotemporal resolution. This direct connection is absolutely crucial because it captures the most detailed, high-resolution neural signals available. Think of it like having the best possible microphone placed right at the source of the brain's language of movement. That's essential for precise control over something like a prosthetic limb, or maybe even reanimating one's own muscles through functional electrical stimulation.
So we're talking about directly plugging your thoughts into a computer, effectively bypassing the damaged biological pathways. It still sounds a bit like science fiction, honestly. And the ultimate goal here isn't just one-way communication, but this idea of a closed-loop BCI system.
Exactly. In this ideal vision, brain activity is continuously recorded, then decoded in real time, and crucially, feedback is provided back, either to the user or to the external device, creating this seamless, intuitive loop. Imagine thinking, move hand forward. The BCI decodes that, moves a prosthetic hand, and you instantly feel or see that movement, which then subtly influences your next thought. This constant feedback isn't just about controlling a device, it's also believed to enhance neuroplasticity. This means the brain might actually be able to relearn, adapt, potentially restore some motor control over time, even in damaged areas, by constantly interacting with this new pathway. And our focus today, Raman, plays that pivotal role of the decoding engine within this critical loop. It's the component that extracts the useful features from the neural data to accurately decode those desired hand kinematics. It makes the thought-to-action translation possible.
Now, this isn't just about clever algorithms and software, is it? It's also about the incredible engineering challenge of creating truly implantable technology. When you talk about putting a device inside someone's brain for long-term use, wow, the requirements become incredibly rigorous. This isn't consumer electronics.
Oh, they absolutely do. An implantable BCI system demands a unique hardware-software co-design approach because the constraints are just so severe. First, compactness is paramount. It literally has to fit inside the brain without causing harm, minimizing invasiveness, discomfort. We're talking devices that are incredibly small, almost imperceptible once implanted.
And once it's in, it has to work, and work perfectly.
Right. Precisely. Then there's high accuracy. There's simply no room for error when you're controlling a prosthetic that impacts a person's independence or trying to restore natural movement. A misinterpretation could have serious consequences or at least be incredibly frustrating. Robustness is equally vital. The device must perform reliably, consistently, over extended periods, often years within a harsh biological environment. It needs to withstand the body's defenses, maintain integrity.
And our brains aren't static, are they? They're constantly changing, adapting. So the system needs to keep up.
Absolutely. Adaptability is critical because brain signals aren't static. They can change over time, learning, disease progression, just daily variability. The system needs to adjust its decoding algorithms to remain effective, personalized to the individual's changing neural landscape.
And of course, real-time operation. That's just non-negotiable. Any significant delay, even fractions of a second, would completely defeat the purpose of natural, intuitive movement. You can't have that lag.
Exactly. It would feel unnatural, unusable. And from a power perspective, low power consumption is absolutely crucial. Battery life in an implanted device is paramount. The fewer times a battery needs recharging or, more importantly, replacing through invasive surgery, the better. This directly impacts quality of life, reduces medical burden. Finally, scalability. As BCI systems get more sophisticated, aiming for finer control, they'll need to handle more recording channels, maybe hundreds, even thousands, without performance drops or ballooning power use. These aren't just abstract technical specs, they're the fundamental engineering challenges that determine if this tech can truly become viable, sustainable, life-changing for real people.
That really highlights the complexity. So the dream is incredibly compelling, giving movement back. But achieving that, especially for continuous, nuanced control, has been a monumental challenge for existing BCI approaches. What exactly were the hurdles they faced? How did those limitations create the need for something like Raman? Let's get into the hurdles of decoding movement and where Raman shines. At the heart of any sophisticated BCI system is a machine learning accelerator. This is really the brain of the BCI, doing all the heavy computational listing.
You're right. It's the core computational component. Its job is processing all that raw neural data, decoding the intended motor actions in real time. Given those stringent demands of an implantable BCI, the accelerator's design is heavily influenced by the constraints we just discussed. Its primary objectives are basically threefold. First, minimize, multiply, accumulate, or MA operations, those fundamental calculations in neural nets to cut power use. Second, achieve very low memory requirements to fit in a tiny space. And third, despite these constraints, maintain high decoding performance while being robust against issues like overfitting, which is tricky with high-dimensional neural data. This accelerator is kind of the unsung hero, doing complex math without draining the battery or taking up too much room.
But it hasn't always been easy to strike that balance, has it? What were some of the limitations of prior approaches to decoding these signals?
Well, historically, many studies in motor action decoding relied on separate feature extraction and classification stages. This often involved what's called handcrafted feature engineering. Researchers would meticulously design specific algorithms to pull out identifiable patterns, maybe frequency bands, spike rates from the signals, then feed those features into a simpler classifier.
Which sounds like a lot of work and potentially quite rigid. What were the downsides there?
The main drawbacks were severalfold. Handcrafted features often struggle with the sheer volume, the noise, the complexity of neural signals. Managing large dynamic data sets effectively becomes difficult. More importantly, they often have limited scalability and generalization. They don't fully capture the incredible variability of neural signals across different people or even in the same person doing different tasks over time. The brain is just too dynamic, too plastic for a static, handcrafted feature set to really keep up and provide robust, continuous control. It's like trying to learn a language by memorizing just a few phrases. It falls apart quickly in real conversation.
Right. So then deep learning came along, CNNs, convolutional neural networks, fantastic for pattern recognition. But even these had limitations for on-edge implantable uses, didn't they?
Exactly. Current on-edge deep learning implementations using CNNs mostly focus on classification tasks. Think distinguishing between a few discrete hand movements, open hand versus close hand, reach left versus reach right. They typically use what we call shallow CNN architectures, fewer layers, less complexity, trying to work around the severe memory and power limits of implants.
So already making compromises, sacrificing depth for the sake of fitting on the hardware. And I imagine even with those compromises, there were still deficiencies.
Absolutely. While some shallow CNNs have been deployed on FPGA's field programmable gate arrays using techniques like quantization, reducing number precision to save space, and resource optimization, they often lack critical features. For instance, they might not include pruning, intelligently removing unnecessary connections, or fully leverage weight and activation sparsity, skipping calculations involving zeros to save power. They also often lack true configurability for optimizing those crucial trade-offs between accuracy, power, and latency dynamically.
It sounds like these existing systems were either too limited in scope to offer real freedom of movement or still too resource-intensive for an implant to be practical long-term.
Precisely. And this leads to the biggest, most complex challenge. Most prior approaches either struggled with or just avoided the much harder task of real-time on-edge decoding of continuous hand kinematics. Some attempts tried to convert this complex regression problem, predicting a continuous range of values, into a classification problem by quantizing the kinematic signals, essentially turning a smooth movement into a series of discrete steps. But this is inherently suboptimal, right? It sacrifices the very precision and nuance that defines natural movement. It's like trying to draw a curve using only straight lines.
What about more sophisticated networks, like recurrent neural networks, RNNs, or transformer models? They handle time series data, complex sequences really well. Seems like a natural fit for continuous movement.
You're absolutely right. Those more complex networks can decode continuous kinematics with great promise. They're inherently designed for sequential data. However, the critical bottleneck is that on-edge demonstrations for implantable devices are largely missing. They are typically far too computationally demanding, too memory-intensive to fit within the strict power and memory budgets needed for an implant running for years. They might work great on a PowerShell lab computer, but not on a chip the size of your fingernail, powered by a tiny battery.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. This is why Raman is such a big deal. It's specifically addressing this incredibly difficult gap that existing methods struggle with, particularly for continuous, real-time fluid control right from the brain. It's not just classifying a few hand movements, it's decoding the smooth fluid intentions of your hand in real time on a tiny chip. That's a perfect segue into Raman's ingenious design, the core innovations making this possible. So let's formally introduce Raman. What's its full name again, and what's its specific mission?
Okay, Raman stands for Reconfigurable and Sparse Tiny ML Accelerator for Inference. Its explicit goal, as you said, is tackling that huge challenge of on-edge decoding of continuous hand kinematics. But it's also designed for versatility. It can handle both classification tasks, identifying specific movements, and regression tasks, like predicting continuous velocity or position, all on neural signals, making it broadly applicable.
What's fascinating here is how Raman does this. It's not just another algorithm, it's a fundamental rethink of how computations happen on a tiny chip, tailored for implant constraints. Let's start with sparsity. How does Raman leverage weight and activation sparsity? For someone not deep in ML jargon, what does that actually mean?
That's a great question, and it's one of Raman's core innovations. Okay, think of a neural network as this vast web of interconnected neurons. Each connection has a weight, its strength, and each neuron produces an activation, its output. In many deep networks, a significant chunk of these connections, these weights, don't actually contribute much to the final answer. And many activations, the outputs of neurons, often end up being zero or very close to it. Raman intelligently identifies these zeros, both zero weights and zero activations, and crucially, skips the computations associated with them. This isn't just software, it's baked into the hardware design.
So it's literally ignoring the irrelevant parts of the calculation. What's the impact of doing that?
The impact is profound. By identifying and skipping these zeros, Raman drastically cuts storage needs no need to store or move zero values. It slashes power consumption, not wasting energy on calculations that result in nothing. And it dramatically cuts down latency, not wasting time processing irrelevant info. Imagine the direct impact for a patient. Instead of needing frequent invasive battery replacements, the device could potentially last for years. It becomes a seamless part of their life. That's the real power of ignoring the zeros. It translates directly into freedom and less medical burden.
That makes so much sense for efficiency. Less work, less power, faster results. And I hear it uses an efficient data flow inspired by Gustafson's algorithm. What kind of magic is happening there, especially when minimizing power is so critical?
Right. This design choice is critical for minimizing memory access, which is often the single biggest power hog in traditional computing. Gustafson's algorithm is known for its efficiency in sparse matrix multiplication by focusing on non-zero elements. Raman employs a specialized data flow, inspired by this, that maximizes the reuse of input and output activations. Instead of constantly fetching data from memory, which is energy-intensive and slow, Raman's architecture keeps frequently used data closer to the processing units. Think of it like a super-efficient chef's kitchen. Ingredients are prepped in batches and shared among cooks, instead of each cook running to a distant pantry for every single item every time. It dramatically minimizes redundant fetches, data movement costs, translating directly to huge power savings and faster processing.
So it's not just what it computes, but how it moves and manages the data in the most power-efficient way. And Raman is also described as having flexibility and customization through an instruction memory and dedicated instruction set. Why is that important for something implanted, where future needs are hard to predict?
This gives Raman incredible adaptability, resilience against future obsolescence. The instruction memory allows the accelerator to be programmed with different network topologies. It's not hardwired for just one specific network or task. This flexibility is vital because BCI applications are constantly evolving, new algorithms are developed rapidly. Raman can be reconfigured or updated, maybe wirelessly, though that's down the line, to suit various BCI applications, handle different decoding tasks, even incorporate future algorithmic advances without needing a complete hardware redesign and another invasive surgery. It essentially future-proofs the device significantly.
That's incredibly forward-thinking, ensuring its longevity. And finally, let's talk hardware-software co-design. This isn't just one brilliant component, it's a holistic approach, right? Software and hardware developed together.
Exactly. Raman incorporates several synergistic techniques optimized for both the algorithm and the chip. It uses hardware-aware weight pruning. The pruning strategy is designed specifically to improve how the multiply accumulate units on the chip are used. It's not just cutting connections randomly, it's cutting them in a way that aligns with the hardware's capabilities, making the silicon itself more efficient. Additionally, it performs quantization of weights and activations. The precision of numbers is reduced, say, from standard 32-bit floating point down to 8-bit integers. This significantly enhances hardware efficiency, uses fewer bits, meaning less memory, less power, faster computations. Crucially, this is combined with quantization-aware training to minimize accuracy loss that might otherwise happen with this compression.
Wow. These aren't just buzzwords. These are the engineering marvels that collectively make Raman tiny, powerful, efficient enough for something as demanding as an inside-the-brain application. It's truly a marvel of modern microelectronics and machine learning working together. Okay, this brings us to how this ingenious design was brought to life, the data and optimization that trained Raman. You can have the most brilliant hardware, but it needs training on robust, relevant data. What was the training ground for Raman?
For this critical development, the team used the MC Maze dataset. This dataset is particularly well suited for studying continuous motor control because it captures rich, complex hand movements and the corresponding neural activity.
Can you paint a picture of that experiment for us? How was this data actually collected? What was it like for the subject?
Absolutely. Imagine a macaque monkey, seated comfortably in a chair, focusing its eyes on a screen right in front of it. The experiment starts with a fixation period, just staring at a central point. Then, target onset, a maze configuration appears on screen. This maze might have up to 3 potential targets, but crucially, only one is physically reachable by the macaque's hand. Following this, the targets would undergo slight, unpredictable jittering for a variable time, maybe up to a second. This jittering period was specifically designed to let the macaque plan its movement, figure out the best path to the reachable target.
So the brain is actively calculating, strategizing, even before any physical movement starts.
Exactly. The end of the jitter serves as the go cue. That's the signal for the macaque to initiate its hand movement and perform the reach, which typically took between, say, 200 to 600 milliseconds, depending on the maze complexity. Each recording session actually had 27 different maze configurations, providing a really rich variety of reach scenarios for the model to learn from.
That sounds really comprehensive. What kind of variety did these mazes offer? Were they all simple reaches?
Oh no, they were quite diverse to ensure a robust training dataset that could generalize well. They included configurations with a single reachable target, no barrier straightforward reaching, then configurations with a single reachable target but with barriers, forcing the macaque to plan around obstacles. And finally, some mazes had up to 3 targets and barriers, where only one was truly reachable, requiring careful discrimination and planning. This wide range was crucial for training a model to understand complex movement intentions, not just simple reaches.
And how is the actual physiological data collected? Where were they recording from?
Neural activity was meticulously recorded from 2 key areas involved in motor planning and execution: the dorsal premotor cortex and the primary motor cortex. This was done using 2 96-channel Utah arrays. They are tiny electrode grids implanted right onto the brain surface. The raw neural signals were sampled at a high frequency, 30 kilohertz, then underwent offline spike sorting and manual quality checks. Besides neural data, other important points were recorded: cursor position, eye position, the macaque's actual hand position, and precise timing cues, target onset, go cue, movement onset. Critically, hand velocity, the precise continuous movement Raman was predicting, was calculated after data capture by differentiating the recorded hand position over time.
Okay, so we have this incredibly rich, detailed data set. Now, how did they build the brain of Raman, the actual neural network architecture that would learn from this?
Raman employs a thinned-down version of the MobileNet V1 architecture. MobileNet V1 is well-known in efficient deep learning, specifically designed for mobile and embedded applications where resources are tight.
And why MobileNet V1 specifically? What makes it a good fit for tiny ML and an implant?
Its key feature is its innovative use of depth-wise separable convolutions. These aren't your standard heavy convolutions. They're specialized blocks with two steps, a depth-wise DW convolution, and a point-wise PW convolution. Think of standard convolution like mixing and cooking everything together in one big pot. Depth-wise separable convolution is more like prepping each ingredient individually, depth-wise, sautéing carrots, then potatoes, and then combining them efficiently, point-wise. This two-step process has significantly fewer parameters and needs far fewer MC operations compared to standard convolutions. That makes it inherently very efficient for resource-constrained environments like an implantable BCI chip.
So it's already on an efficient diet plan. But Raman takes that efficiency even further. What were the specific optimizations they applied to make it even leaner?
Absolutely. The team put MobileNet V1 on an extreme diet. First, channel thinning. The base MobileNet V1 architecture was scaled down by a factor of 0.25x in each layer's channels. This drastically cut computational complexity and latency without significantly hurting decoding performance, quite an engineering feat.
So less is truly more when done smartly.
Precisely. Then came structured pruning. Neural networks are often over-parameterized, more connections than strictly needed. Raman implements structured pruning, not just random snipping. It specifically removes a fixed percentage of output channels, 75% in the computationally heavy, pointwise PW layers iteratively. This targeted pruning trims the fat without losing critical muscle, further reducing complexity.
It sounds like simplifying the network without losing its core capabilities.
Yes.
And they also used 8-bit quantization.
Yes. The model was compressed from standard 32-bit floating point down to 8-bit integers, a massive compression. To minimize errors from this reduced precision, they used quantization-aware training, QAT. This sophisticated technique essentially simulates 8-bit inference behavior during training, so the network learns to be robust to lower precision right from the start. It's like teaching a sculptor with a chisel from day one, not adapting painting skills later.
Very clever. Anticipating the compression during training. And operation folding, what's that?
Finally, for linear operations like convolution and batch normalization, their parameters were folded together. During inference, these two distinct operations are mathematically combined into one effective operation, further reducing unnecessary parameters and computations. The combined impact: huge. Model size dropped from 3.23 million parameters to just 0.06 million, over 99% compression, and a big drop in latency.
Over 99% compression. That's staggering. It's like taking a full orchestral score and reducing it to a few concise notes that convey the same melody. But what about the actual training process? How did they refine this super compact model for accuracy and robustness?
The training was rigorous. The MC-Maze dataset was first resampled with a fine 5-millisecond bin size for high temporal detail. Then trials were created using a window of a -130 meters to 370 meters around movement onset, capturing planning and execution. The 2295 trials were split 60% training, 20% validation, 20% testing for unbiased evaluation. Crucially, the spiking neural data was smoothed using a 50 meters Gaussian kernel to reduce noise, and the hand velocity Raman predicted was intentionally lagged by 80 milliseconds.
Why that 80-millisecond lag? What's the purpose there?
That lag accounts for the inherent neural processing time, the delay between the brain's intention and the actual physical movement. By lagging the ground truth velocity, the model learns to predict the movement about to happen based on the current neural signal, essential for real-time control. And to make the model more robust, prevent overfitting to specific electrodes, they use data augmentation.
What kind of augmentation?
Channel dropout. Randomly setting some spiking channels to 0 during training, this helps the model generalize better, makes it less reliant on any single channel, more robust to noise or maybe even eventual electrode issues in a real implant. For optimization, they use the popular Atom optimizer with an initial learning rate of 0.01 for training and pruning. Used L1 loss, which encourages sparsity. This learning rate was scaled down by 100 for quantization-aware training and halved if the loss plateaued, ensuring stable learning.
And the pruning was iterative, happening in stages.
Exactly. Pruned to 75% sparsity iteratively over 20 steps. After each step, the model was fine-tuned for 100 epochs to recover and adjust, maintaining performance. For compression, they used maximum tensor values and performed per-channel quantization, a fine-grained approach. As a final post-processing step, predictions were smoothed using a moving average filter, window size 5, for a more fluid output. They even split trials into slices for more efficient computation.
Wow, that rigorous, meticulous process ensures the model isn't just small and efficient, but also highly accurate, robust, resilient. It's a testament to the attention to detail at every step, truly bringing this complex model to life for an implantable application. Okay, we talked design, training. Now let's get into the physical realization, Ryman, on actual hardware. This is where the magic truly happens.
Right. Raman's top-level architecture was meticulously implemented on an Affinix Ti-60 FPGA. An FPGA, Field Programmable Gate Array, is this versatile, reconfigurable chip. Unlike a fixed processor, an FPGA is like a blank canvas. Engineers can program at a low level for specific tasks with extreme efficiency and parallelism, tailoring the hardware exactly to the algorithm.
And what does Raman's blueprint look like on that FPGA? Must be designed with extreme precision for those implantable requirements.
It absolutely is. Think of its architecture built on three main highly optimized pillars: compute subsystem, memory subsystem, and control subsystem, each engineered for its role, working together for max efficiency.
Let's start with compute, where the actual brain signal crunching happens.
That's right. The compute subsystem is the muscle. It houses the processing element, PE, array, multiple parallel units doing those crucial multiply-accumulate operations, the core math of neural nets. But it's smart. It includes a dedicated activation sparsity engine. This clever module actively detects and leverages sparsity and activations, intelligently skipping zero operations directly in hardware. The physical circuits literally bypass calculations for irrelevant data. Massive power saver. And finally, the post-processing module, PPM, handling final steps like ReLU activation, requantization, pooling, bias addition, residual additions if needed by the network.
So a miniature supercomputer, precisely designed, optimized for speed, efficiency, and specifically handling sparse data. What about memory? Data management is key for power.
Absolutely. The memory subsystem handles data incredibly efficiently, minimizing costly memory accesses. It includes on-chip global memory for layer parameters, weights, biases, and input-output activations. A crucial part is the activation and parameter cache, vital for exploiting temporal data reuse. It efficiently stores and reuses frequently accessed data, minimizing redundant fetches from slower global memory, like the chef having most used spices right there, not walking to the pantry every time. And then the instruction memory, storing layer configuration instructions that allow Raman to be programmed for different networks, giving it that vital reconfigurability.
And finally, the control subsystem, the conductor of this miniature orchestra.
Exactly. The top-level controller acts as the conductor. It coordinates all data traffic between memory and compute, ensures smooth movement, issues precise control signals to all modules, making sure they act at the right time in the right sequence. The brains behind the brawn, ensuring seamless, low-power operation.
Sounds like a finely tuned machine. So how does all this translate into real-world efficiency on the FPGA? How does it bring that theoretical sparsity to life?
The optimized MobileNet V1 model, 0.25x with multiplier, all those optimizations, programmed onto this Affinix Ti-60 FPGA. The key is, exploiting sparsity isn't just theoretical. It leads to direct, quantifiable hardware benefits. Especially in the heavy pointwise PW layers, Raman actively performs zero skipping. Processing cycles with zero activations and waits are literally snipped by the hardware. The circuits don't even bother. This directly cuts clock cycles needed, reducing latency, saving power.
So the hardware isn't just ignoring irrelevant data and software, it's physically not doing the work at all, smart enough to know when to conserve energy.
Precisely. And in terms of storage, the model compression from pruning, quantization, operation folding directly minimizes physical memory needed on chip. It's not just theory. It's physically implemented to save energy and time critical for an implant operating for years. The hardware literally gets smarter, more efficient by avoiding irrelevant computations, minimizing data movement.
This is truly incredible, like having an incredibly powerful, tiny engine that knows exactly when to conserve fuel and when to rev up. Perfect for the demanding, continuous, long-term operation inside the human body. A real triumph of integrated hardware and software engineering. Okay, deep divers, this is the moment of truth. We've explored the challenges, the design, the training, the hardware. Now, the payoff, unpacking the impressive results. How did Raman actually deliver when benchmarked?
This is where Raman truly shines, yeah. Demonstrates its disruptive potential. The team rigorously benchmarked Raman's model against two important baselines, ridge regression, RR, and the base MobileNet V1 model without Raman's specific optimizations.
Let's start with ridge regression. What were the findings there? How did it compare?
Ridge regression, being a simpler linear model, achieved an R2 score of 0.64. The R2 score ranges from 0 to 1, measures how well predictions match actual data. Higher is better. An R2 of 0.64, while maybe okay for some things, clearly showed it's not sufficiently complex enough to capture that intricate nonlinear relationship between neural data and continuous hand kinematics. Like trying to describe a ballet with only a few rigid moves misses the nuance.
So too simplistic for decoding natural continuous movement. What about the base MobileNet V1, more sophisticated deep learning, but without Raman's extreme optimizations?
That model achieved a high R2 score of 0.91. Excellent performance, accurately predicting kinematics. However, huge cost, 3.23 million parameters, a staggering 618.39 million MAC operations. That complexity is just too large, too power-hungry, too slow for an implant running continuously for years, like a top race car needing constant fuel, and a huge crew not practical for daily use.
And now, the blockbuster result, Raman's model, the culmination of all those design choices.
Indeed. Our optimized model, Raman, achieved the exact same R2 score of 0.91 as the powerful, unoptimized base MobileNet V1. But here's the kicker, the real breakthrough. Dramatically reduced complexity. A minuscule 0.063 million parameters greater than 99% compression in model size, and just 40.92 million MAC operations, a fraction of the 618.39 million MACs needed by the base model.
This is the aha moment. Raman delivers top-tier performance, matching a much bigger, power-hungry system, but at a tiny fraction of the computational and memory cost. It's like having a supercar that sips fuel like a scooter or a supercomputer on a microchip. That's truly transformative for implants. Performance doesn't have to mean an impossible power or size budget.
It absolutely is. The efficiency gain is staggering, enabling practical use. And we get deeper insights from the ablation study they did, systematically checking the impact of different design choices with multipliers, pruning ratios, bit widths.
What was a key finding from that study about pruning? Did removing parts actually hurt?
A crucial finding was that pruning helps the model generalize better, actually leading to a higher R2 score on the test set. Might seem counterintuitive removing parts improves performance, but it suggests removing redundant connections forces the model to learn more robust, essential features, stops it getting bogged down in noise or overfitting, makes it smarter, more focused. The study also noted larger models are more adversely affected by quantization, highlighting the careful balance needed between size, compression, and accuracy. Can't just shrink any model, needs designing for it.
Not just shrinking, smart, purposeful shrinking. Let's move from numbers to visuals. How do these predictions actually look compared to reality? Does Raman deliver smooth, natural movement?
Yeah, if you look at the comparison plots of predicted hand velocities versus the ground truth, it's really illustrative. Ridge regression's predictions show a significant offset from actual movements, consistently a bit off, lagging, not catching subtle dynamics. In stark contrast, Raman's predictions are consistent with the ground truth. The trajectories it predicts closely follow the actual hand movements, almost mirroring them perfectly in real time. The higher Pearson correlation coefficients for Raman quantitatively confirm this much better match, strong linear relationship between prediction and reality.
So it's not just numbers. It's seeing that smooth, accurate, natural movement control Raman enables compared to a crude attempt. This is what enables intuitive control for a user. And what about the actual hardware metrics? Power, latency, memory footprint. Absolutely critical for implant viability and patient quality of life.
These results on the Efinix TI-60 FPGA are exceptionally impressive, directly addressing those key implant constraints. For power consumption, Raman consumes just 52.23 milliwatts at a 5 MHz clock rate. That's incredibly low for an implant. For context, the same design at 75 MHz would use 138.25 milliwatts, but Raman's efficiency allows great performance at this much lower battery-friendly frequency.
52 milliwatts. That's less power than a small LED indicator. Means longer battery life, potentially years, fewer invasive surgeries. Profound difference for patients, changing the device from a medical concern to a seamless part of life.
Transformative for usability, patient autonomy. For latency, how quickly it processes signals, Raman achieves an impressive 5.78 milliseconds at 75 MHz using sparsity. And even at the ultra-low 5 MHz clock rate, it's still only 86.7 milliseconds with sparsity. That speed is vital for real-time control. No noticeable delay between thought and action. Crucial for feeling natural.
And the memory footprint. Every kilobyte counts in an implant.
A tiny 230 kilobytes total memory footprint for the entire system. The model parameters themselves, 75% prune, need only 100.88 kBA. Exceptionally small, perfect for compact implants where memory is severely limited, and pure efficiency. Raman achieves an astounding 102.34 giga operations per second per watt GOPSW at 75 MHz. That's equivalent to 1,251 inferences per joule of energy.
1,251 inferences per joule. Incredible energy efficiency, pushing the boundaries of low-power AI.
And we can quantify the sparsity impact here. Zero skipping and compression collectively lead to a 57% reduction in latency and a 54% reduction in memory storage. This isn't a side benefit, it's fundamental, quantifiable, directly translates to these remarkable hardware metrics. The architecture also uses FPGA resources very efficiently. 85.96% XLR cells, 38.12% DSPs, shows how well the design maps to the hardware.
Just imagine a tiny chip, fingernail-sized, implanted, understanding movement intentions with precision, fluidity, using less power than a tiny LED, responding almost instantly. This is what Raman truly delivers. Not futuristic, a tangible engineered reality with immense promise. So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's recap Raman's incredible impact. What are the key takeaways for our listeners? The most important summary is this. Raman is a groundbreaking, energy-efficient, tiny ML accelerator that successfully decodes continuous hand kinematics, those smooth, fluid movements. It marries exceptionally high performance, R2 score of 0.91, with dramatically reduced model size, complexity, latency, all while maintaining ultra-low power, use just 52.23 milliwatts, and minimal memory footprint, 230 kilobytes. It definitively shows the effectiveness and efficiency needed for real-time continuous movement analysis in the demanding world of BCIs. Moves us much closer to truly natural intuitive control. Which means it's not just a lab curiosity. This is bringing us closer to real-world application for those who need it most. What are the next critical steps towards patient integration?
The future plans are explicitly focused on its integration into the BCI pipeline for closed-loop testing. That's the absolutely critical next step, taking Raman from benchmarks into a full BCI system where a user actively controls a device, gets immediate feedback, experiences that thought-to-action loop in real time. This real-world closed-loop testing will validate its efficacy, reliability in creating practical, life-changing assistive devices. The final bridge from lab bench to patient bedside.
And this truly opens up incredible possibilities, doesn't it? Not just restoring movement and independence profound enough, but understanding the brain itself in new ways. It could fundamentally reshape how we interact with technology, maybe even perceive human capability. Imagine applications beyond purely medical needs.
The potential is vast, yeah. And that leads us to a fascinating question for our listeners to ponder.
Considering Raman's unprecedented efficiency and accuracy in translating thought into continuous action, what implications does such highly personalized, low-power, real-time brain-computer interfacing have for human augmentation, beyond just medical uses? Could this tech eventually reshape how we interact with our digital world, controlling complex interfaces with thoughts alone, or even with each other through new, more direct communication? What new possibilities or even challenges might arise when our intentions can so directly, efficiently control external systems, blurring the lines between thought and action in ways we've only dreamed of?
A truly provocative thought, yeah. For a truly provocative piece of technology that could redefine human interaction and capability.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder those possibilities. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of tiny ML BCIs. We'll catch you next time.